Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Carolina Panthers in their preseason finale in Charlotte tonight by a final score of 19-10. But like in these preseason games, and a big theme throughout the preseason here, guys, is that it's not really that big of a deal, right? It's just the final score. Of course, you end the game 19-10. But really what people care about are who are the winners, who are the losers, which players really made a case for themselves to make the final roster, which players made a good case for themselves to get better roles within this team, all that different stuff. And today I'm going to have my winners and losers list for you guys from this preseason finale that's coming up later on today's edition of Steelers Talk. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're going to be going live for every single Steelers game this year. Tonight's watch party was awesome. Over $2,000 donated in Super Chats and Venmos and all that great stuff. So for everybody that stayed up with us to watch the game with us on the watch party, thank you guys so much. But we're also going to be doing these post-game reactions for every single Steelers game this year. So to never miss a post-game reaction, to get the very latest after Steelers games this year, click that subscribe button and join the Steelers Talk family today. So the news that everyone wants to know about, is Derrick Harmon okay, right? Because he left today's game after the first drive of the game with a knee injury. He had to be carted off with a towel over his head, which is usually not a good sign, but he was able to walk back out onto the sideline on his own power. He was able to sit down on the bench, laugh it up with TJ Watt and Cam Hayward, and Mike Tomlin said after the game that he has suffered some sort of knee sprain, so it's not an ACL tear or anything like that. He is able to walk on it, and it's going to be a sprain that might keep him out of practice here for a little bit. It might even limit his availability for the first game of the season, or maybe even the first couple weeks of the season, depending on how severe the knee sprain is. But, after what was originally thought to be something that could end the first-round pick's season, this is abundantly good news that Derrick Harmon has only suffered a knee sprain, and he's going to eventually be able to play at some point for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's terrific news given what it could have been. Also, Brandon Johnson, wide receiver, dealt with a foot injury today. Those were the more significant injuries that Mike Tomlin listed in his post-game press conference tonight. I would say this almost assuredly means Brandon Johnson will not make the final Steelers roster. And I do think the Steelers will continue their search of adding a wide receiver to this group before the start of the season once roster cuts happen by next Tuesday. So just keep your eye out for that. We'll have extensive coverage on all the latest wide receiver rumors here on Steelers Talk. But let's get into our winners and losers list here. We'll start with the winners. I'll start with James Pierre, who had an interception today. He needed to have a good game tonight to solidify his standing heading into the season here, and he might still be a practice squad guy. He's still very much a bubble player. We'll see what the team decides to do with Corey Trice Jr., but Pierre got an interception today in the red zone. Impressive play, reading the eyes of the quarterback in zone coverage, and, in a game where he kind of had to show out in stadium to kind of give the coaching staff a tough decision, he certainly did that. So shout out to James Pierre for doing just that here in the preseason finale. Then we get to Scotty Miller, multiple downfield receptions for him. He has just been so steady and so solid throughout the preseason. Downfield receptions, getting open, and, in terms of Scotty's role on this offense, he's going to be an excellent backup to Calvin Austin III and what he does for this offense, which is kind of like a passing downs weapon, a smaller wide receiver that's a good route runner. He's got good enough hands, all that different stuff. Scotty Miller's not a number one receiver. I think we all understand that, but he's somebody that Arthur Smith and the Steelers coaching staff inherently trust, and he has earned that trust with some really good play throughout training camp and the preseason. So if there's an injury to Calvin Austin III or Roman Wilson, God forbid, I trust Scotty Miller to be that kind of passing downs type of weapon in their stead. Then you get to Skylar Thompson, and Skylar's played so well this preseason, and Mason Rudolph hasn't played particularly well the last two games, where people are saying make Skylar Thompson the second quarterback on the depth chart. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Mason is pretty clearly this team's number 2 quarterback heading into the year. But, man, Skylar really played well throughout the preseason, and that extended into tonight. He was, 11 for 13 for 152 and a tud, no picks. I mean, he did miss a wide-open touchdown on a wheel route to Lew Nichols, so that was one of the incompletions. Could have been 2 touchdowns on the day. But overall. I mean, those first 6 passes, perfect 6 for 6, had a touchdown, got the team in the field goal range at the end of the first half on a deep shot to Scotty Miller in the seam. Like, he was impressive tonight, man. He's been impressive throughout the preseason. I don't think he's anything special in terms of somebody that you would trust to start a regular season game. But as a number 3 quarterback, I think he's earned a 53-man roster spot. We'll see if that's here in Pittsburgh. We'll see if Will Howard's healthy enough to be on the 53 heading into the season. But if not, Skylar Thompson, once waived, I think some NFL team's going to pick him up as a QB3. Then we get to Lance McCutcheon, who I don't expect to make this team, but I did think he had a couple nice receptions tonight. I think that, in a night where, these kind of UDFA types, these players that are kind of at the bottom of the roster, they need to show out. I think he did show some good things tonight. Made a tough catch with the first team offense. He made a couple nice catches. He had a touchdown reception today as well. So I thought McCutcheon had a pretty decent game. We'll see if he ends up making the team in terms of the practice squad, but whatever happens to Lance McCutcheon, I think he played well tonight. Then Yayha Black, man, like if Derrick Harmon has to miss a couple games here, guys, I trust Yayha Black to take on those reps, all right? Like whether it's as a nose tackle, whether it's you're moving people around, along that defensive line. But Yayha was super impressive today, had 2 sacks, a forced fumble, was pressuring the quarterback, was getting consistent push, which is something that, most people didn't think he had it as bad coming in, but he's been really good as a run defender. He's had a hell of a camp, a hell of a preseason. He has looked like a real NFL starting caliber defensive tackle, and he's going to be part of your depth along that defensive line this year. So with Derrick Harmon dealing with a knee sprain, having a guy like Yayha Black as a 5th-round pick playing as well as he has been playing is certainly going to put ease to the minds of Steelers fans out there. Then we get to Troy Fautanu on the other side of the trenches here. And Fautanu, 0 pressures allowed during the preseason. So if you're worried about the Steelers' offensive line in terms of pass protection, I don't think you have to worry about Fautanu. He has been phenomenal. He didn't allow a pressure in the 1 regular season he played last year against a really good Denver Broncos pass rush, by the way. So I've been saying it all preseason. He looks like an all-pro caliber player in the future and potentially even a Pro Bowl caliber player this year. I know that's setting high expectations, but I really do believe in Troy Fautanu's talent and ability. And if he can stay healthy, he's going to be a beast for this team. I thought Lew Nichols, once again, looked good. Vision, cutting ability, the aggressiveness that he plays with. He got open on a wheel route that should have been a touchdown. Like, Lew Nichols, I really hope makes this practice squad. I really don't think there's enough room for him on the 53, but I would love for the Steelers to keep him in the building and in the practice squad. I think he's earned that with his play here during the NFL preseason this year. Then Eke Leota, not Eke, it's Eke Leota. Sorry for the typo there. But obviously, edge rusher has had a really, really good preseason, really good training camp as well. He was one of these guys, bottom of the roster that I think has earned a practice squad, designation because he's just consistently affecting the quarterback and he's getting into the backfield. And, I'm really excited about what he was able to do with the 3rd team and 2nd team units here during the preseason. And even though he's not necessarily someone I am, rostering or anything like that, but kind of in the mold of like a Nick Herbig, like if he goes down for an extended period of time, you need somebody to come in as a rotational edge rusher. Eke Leota is somebody that you can consider on your practice squad to move up in that case. I've also been really impressed with Andrus Peat. Now, the backup offensive line has not been impressive throughout this preseason, but the one kind of shining light in that group, in my opinion, has been Andrus Peat, who is a former starter in this league, a ton of experience playing both at tackle and guard. He's been playing tackle here in Pittsburgh, but he's been looking good, man. So I certainly expect him to make this final team on this final roster here once we get to cut down day. And I thought Trey Sermon also had a good night tonight, had a big cutback run, and, he made some catches. He lowered the shoulder well tonight, I thought. I thought Trey Sermon, almost averaged a 1st down per carry, so a pretty freaking good night for Trey Sermon. We'll see if they end up carrying 4 running backs for a team that's going to be running the football as much as they want to. This year, it could make some sense to carry 4 running backs, so we'll see about Trey Sermon. But the Steelers seem to like him. He kind of fits that kind of bigger, kind of outside zone type of runner that Arthur Smith likes. So we'll see if Sermon earned himself a roster spot tonight. Also, kudos to the kicker, Ben Sauls. Now, he will not be on the roster Chris Boswell will be the lone kicker on the team, but if there's a team that has an injury at kicker or has issues with their kicker during the season, I think that he certainly has earned an opportunity with somebody. I mean, he hit 2 50-yard field goals today, made it look easy. So he's been really good throughout the preseason. Obviously you're not going to be replacing Chris Boswell or anything like that, but I think Sauls has put together some good film for NFL teams to consider if there's a problem with their kicking room. And then this is not the right picture here, but Esezi Otomewu, the defensive tackle, he is somebody that I thought really affected the line of scrimmage today. He was getting into the backfield and winning on run defense snaps. He was getting to the quarterback and his pass rush snaps as well. So overall, a good night for him. Probably not a guy that makes the team, but maybe practice squad. He certainly showed out enough tonight to be able to show that. So that's all I have to say about him. And then Carson Bruener, I think that he's looked really good as a special teams player all throughout the preseason, and that's kind of what like Mark Robinson does. So as a late round draft pick here on obviously a really affordable contract, and then you have Mark Robinson, who's a bit older but has more experience, it's going to come down to those two. I think Bruener has made the decision somewhat difficult. I think they probably stick with Mark Robinson just because he's more accustomed to the team, so to speak, and he's made the roster multiple times at this point, but it would not shock me at all if we see Carson Bruener get practice squatted with this team this year. So who's your guy, guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Who was your biggest winner from tonight's game? This is going to be the pinned question on today's show. Who is your biggest winner? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Like I said, this will be the pinned question. So in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Prize Picks. While I'm talking about Prize Picks, let me know who your biggest winner was here in the third week of the preseason for your Pittsburgh Steelers. With that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Prize Picks. And guys, preseason football for the Steelers is now over, and we can now look forward to regular season football here for the Steelers, as well as college football, which begins this weekend. Personally, guys, I think the Steelers and a lot of the players on the Steelers are going to overperform what the expectations are for them this year. All right, Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, Jalen Warren. I think they're going to play a lot better this year than maybe some people are speculating, and I'm going to be spamming those mores on their Prize Picks projections this year during game days this season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Prize Picks is super simple to play, guys. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks also puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. And Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports this football season, so join the millions of users and sign up today for free. Unfortunately, Ponzi and I did not win any money with our friends at Prize Picks. In fact, we went over today. So we took the less on Jack Plummer passing yards. Unfortunately, he got more. We took the more on Kaleb Johnson rushing yards. He didn't actually get that much work tonight, which might be good for his prospects to play during the regular season, by the way. Then we took the more on Roman Wilson receiving yards. Didn't have a reception tonight. So, unfortunately, we did not make any money with our friends at Prize Picks. But if you know a ball more than me and Ponzi, you guys can sign up for free today. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup with Prize Picks today. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, so now let's get into the losers here. I'm going to start with overall team discipline. I think the team had 13 penalties tonight for over 100 penalty yards. Unacceptable, especially because a lot of those penalties came on the starting offense and then on the starting defense. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, after the whistle, just throwing a guy to the ground. I mean, stupid. I know that he's jacked up and he's ready to play, but, like, come on now. We got to be a little bit smarter than that, Ramsey. And then, just a bunch of penalties on the offensive line, holdings, false starts, stuff like that. Procedural stuff that should be cleaned up at this point. And that's something that you want to see cleaned up in the final preseason game before you head into a stadium, on a road game to start your year against the New York Jets in a game that feels like a must-win, right? So that's just not something that, feels great coming out of this game. They had so many penalties. Obviously, you get the win by multiple scores regardless, but, you want to see those procedural stuff and that kind of stuff get kind of ironed out by the end of the preseason. Unfortunately, it didn't. Then we get to Roman Wilson. I think tonight was an opportunity to really solidify himself as the wide receiver 2. Now, maybe he still is the wide receiver 2 heading into the year, and in fact, I think he will be. But, he was really good those first 2 games, had a couple downfield receptions, was really explosive. Today, I'm not even sure he had a target. He just wasn't getting open enough, and that was against backup level players. Now, maybe the quarterbacks just weren't targeting him. I'll have to watch the All-22 to see why. I did think he did some good things. He was the gunner on special teams today. I saw him out there. He had a good block on a run play today, which is going to look good on film as well. But in a game where, I'm sure Robin probably wanted to catch a couple passes, he didn't get a single target. So I think that, he probably was a loser tonight. And then speaking of guys trying to get the ball, or lack thereof, to Rowan Wilson, that's Mason Rudolph. Threw a bad pick. His eyes were everywhere tonight. It looked like he was frazzled out there, and that was against a backup Panthers defense tonight. Now, his completion percentage looks okay, 6 of 8 for 36 and a pick, but he just didn't look comfortable out there, and that's the complete opposite of what we saw from him in the first preseason game, where he has that perfect first drive, touchdown pass to Darnell Washington. I still think Mason Rudolph is going to be the QB2 of this team. Everyone's saying Skylar's better than him, all this stuff. Skylar had the better better preseason, I should say, but Mason has still proven that he can perform in the regular season for this team, and that's going to carry weight. So Mason Rudolph will be the QB2 heading into the year. But then we get to Spencer Anderson, who I thought didn't look all that great tonight. And it might be part of the reason why this team is thinking about bringing in Dalton Reisner, somebody that can play both left and right guard, can be really quality depth on the offensive line. Spencer Anderson has been okay, but today, to my eye, he wasn't playing all that well, wasn't winning his blocks. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if they bring in a guy like Dalton Reisner, if he's willing to come in and play a role player type of role. And then we get to Robert Woods, who's once again playing in the second half. Unfortunately for Robert, he went from pretty much a roster lock, with a lot of people thinking he could be wide receiver 2 heading into the year, to a player that I think we all assume is not going to make the team at this point. So Bobby Trees, it appears he is finally cooked. And we'll see what ends up happening when roster cuts finally get here. Then we got Ryan McCollum, center, multiple penalties today. Obviously, he's been dealing with an injury. He hasn't been playing in the preseason, and he did today. But multiple penalties today, not a good look for your backup center. If there's a better backup center option that presents itself, it wouldn't shock me if the team ends up cutting McCollum and signing someone else. But at this point, McCollum has a lot of experience with this team, so I'm probably assuming he's going to be back with this team, but not a good night for Ryan McCollum. So let's do this again here, guys. Who was the biggest loser of the night? We have more winners than losers tonight, but let me know what you guys think. For me, it was the overall team discipline. I mean, the penalties are just a bad look overall, but let me know what you guys think. Who was the biggest loser of the night? Was it Derrick Harmon? I didn't include him because it wasn't really his fault, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. That'll be it for this week's post-game reaction show. Also tonight, guys, and today is actually my anniversary with my lovely fiance, Cassie Voth, soon to be Cassie Sperry. I just want to give a special shout out to her at the end of today's show and tell her that I love her because I've had to work all day on our anniversary. But make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we're going to have you guys covered with Steelers coverage every single day, whether it's I'm on vacation, whether whether I'm at home on my off day, whether I'm coming into work on my anniversary. We're going to make sure to get you guys premium Steelers coverage every single day for free on this channel. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button for season-long coverage surrounding your Pittsburgh Steelers.